Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to Team Forbidden's YouTube page again. It is Andrew the Collector here with with my first ever Digimon deck profile. Yeah, most of the time on our channel we've had some of the other members, mostly Scott, but we also had Eric and John and Brian too, and Manny post their Digimon decks on the channel. I haven't yet. I've been playing the Digimon game since it came out with all the other guys. I was a little hesitant at first. Scott and Eric got into it before any of us, and they convinced me to get into it because they told me that the green base deck is a lot of it is plant based, and I have a background in horticulture, so that really struck a chord with me. So I decided to give it a try, and green has been my main color ever since the game came out, and I love it. I love this game. I love the way that it plays. It has a really nice flow to it. So a little bit backstory for what I've been playing. When the game first came out, I played the Sarismon control deck with the Digisorptions. The next format after that, I switched to Nidhogg with the Digiburst format, and then after that, I switched to the Shivamon format. Out of these three, the one deck that I had the most success with was definitely the Nidhogg build, because it was the most consistent. Sarismon I played the longest because I was still trying to get used to the game at that point. I didn't do any tournaments, I didn't do any competitive stuff. I mainly did this with the guys to try and get acclimated into it, which was a big help. And Shivamon, it never really worked for me. It's a good deck, but at least the way I piloted it, I was never able to keep up with everyone else. Which brings us to the fourth green deck that I've been playing is BloomLord. I've been playing BloomLord since it came out not that long ago, and just recently they got a broken-ass card in the form of Quartzmon, and I figured I might as well showcase this deck as its debut and my debut for our Digimon part of the channel by showing you this deck at its best form. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So like always, we will start out with the Digi-Eggs. I run 4 Argomon and 1 Gummymon. Their inheritables is that Argomon is when your Digimon becomes unsuspended during the unsuspend phase, you gain a memory. And Gummymon is that when your opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, draw 1 card. Argomon is a lot better, in my opinion, because you like to have as much memory as you can with this build. Even though you play your stuff super cheap, it's not really a necessity, but it gets you further as you go along. That's always been the basis of green decks, is that their memory costs are always cheap. That's one thing I really liked about it. But Gummymon is there just as a draw power. If you don't have Argomon, this is definitely the second best one, at least for this deck, for what it does, because you do suspend a whole lot. Now let's go into the level 3s. Our first level 3, and the most important one, is going to be the Palmon from BT10. Its on play is that reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, add 1 card with vegetation or plant in its traits, and 1 card with fairy in its traits among them to your hand. Place the rest on the bottom in any order. So all of your cards in here are considered vegetation because that helps with the way that this deck works. And BloomLord itself is fairy. So if you excavate your 4 cards, if one of them is a BloomLord and the other one is a vegetation, you can add both of those to your hand. So it's basically a double hit. But if you don't have BloomLord, then it's just a single hit. And one thing I really like about it is that this deck also allows you to play your low DP vegetation monsters from your hand by effects. So if you have her in hand and you summon her by another card's effect, you basically get her effect off for free without having to play it with its memory cost. So yeah, it's the most important level 3 in the entire deck. The second most important one is going to be Pamumon from EX3. Its effect is that when an effect suspends this Digimon, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. One of the cards, Hydramon, gets effects off of suspending your opponent's stuff, but you can also do this to suspend any blockers or anything that your opponent would want to have suspended, or if you want to get over any of their unsuspended Digimon. So yeah, really good. You only need 3. I also run 2 Pamumon from BT9. Its continuous effect is that all players can't play Digimon by card effects. Now you may ask yourself, Andrew, Wouldn't this contradict the entire strategy of your deck? It's true, it is. But let's say that you have a full board set up, and the last thing that you play would be this card. You would basically hinder your opponent from doing a lot of their plays, because a lot of the decks nowadays, at least to my knowledge, a lot of them rely on summoning cards off of effects. So this by far would be able to stall for the turn. And then once you're through with it, you can just use one of your level 4s to just digi over it, and then you can feel free to do your turn. If you want to substitute this, I would put in a third Palmumon or a third Palmon from BT11. Its only effect is at the start of your turn, draw 1 card. Extra draw power, definitely good, and it still fits the DP requirement for vegetation to summon. So yeah, those are the level 3s. Like I said, feel free to arrange them in any order, as long as you keep these 2 in the deck at least 3 and up. That's the main thing that matters. The other ones you can feel, as long as they meet the vegetation DP requirement, you can add in whichever fits your strategy best. And the last level 3 is Terriermon. I am only running 1 Terriermon. It's not a vegetation, but I have it in here just in case I want to hinder my opponent's memory gains, like any of the blue decks or some yellow decks, or even some purple decks, or any deck that uses that requires memory boosts, basically. Now off to the level 4s. The most important level 4 is I'm running 4 Sunflowermon. Its effect is that when it is digivolved, suspend one of your Digimon, and you can play 1 Digimon from your hand with Vegetation, Plant, or Fairy in its traits. That's 3,000 or less DP from your hand without playing its memory cost. So, hint, hint. And its inheritable is that when an effect suspends one of your Digimon, you draw 1 card. So again, additional draw power. And the other level 4s are 3 Weedmon and 3 Red Vegemon. These are low-cost level 4s, which also fit the special summon requirements of Sunflowermon. Just to get more bodies on board, because as we get into BloomLord, you want to have as many bodies as you can on the field. So yeah, just really good low cost and low play cost for level 4s. And our last level 4, which also fits the requirements, is Vegemon from BT11. And its start of the turn is that you gain 1 memory. Same thing as the Palmon from BT11, except that you gain a memory. So yeah, want to have as much memory as you can, so definitely run 2 of these. If you don't have these, then put in 2 more, 1 Weedmon and 1 Red Vegemon. But again, as long as you have like the main level 4s in here, you can fit any ratio that you want. Now to level 5s. 4 Agitarmon. It's a Digi-Evolution cost of 3, and its effect is that during the its main effect is that once per turn you can suspend 1 of your green Digimon, and you can and you can play 1 Digimon from your hand that is Vegetation, Plant with a play cost with a DP or less from your hand without playing its cost. So it's literally the same exact effect as Sunflowermon, except that you can do this at any point during your turn, whereas Sunflowermon has to happen when you Digivolve it. And its inheritable is that when an effect suspends 1 of your Digimon, you gain a memory. Our next is going to be 4 Blossomon. It's a Digisorption for free, and like I said, you like to suspend your Digimon as much as possible. And then our last ones are 3 Cherrymon. 2 Cherrymon. Its Digisorption is -2, so if you Digizorp it, you will be only playing 1 play cost. And its effect is that during your opponent's turn, once per turn, when your opponent's Digimon attacks, you can switch the target to 1 of your suspended Digimon. Again, another reason why you want to have as many suspended Digimon as possible. So basically, this can redirect attacks. That's all the level 5s. Off into the level 6s, where it's the real meat of this body. I'm running 3 BloomLord. This guy is absolutely cracked. When Digivolving, you may suspend one of your Digimon, then gain 1 memory for each suspended Digimon with Vegetation, Plant, or Fairy in its traits that you have in play. If you gain 2 or more memory by this effect, unsuspend this Digimon. It gains Piercing for this turn. And during your turn, for every 2 suspended Digimon, this card gains 2000 DP and a security attack +1. So he is the reason why you want to have as many suspended as possible, because if you have 4, including himself, if you have 4 or more Digimon, you can basically play him for free, and he unsuspends, and then you can swing into your opponent's stack. And if you have another one in hand, you can play that again. Even if it's suspended, its effect will still go through, where you gain the memory and it unsuspends, and you can just swing again. This card basically makes this deck an OTK deck. It's absolutely bonkers. And if BloomLord is the shield of the deck, Hydramon is... if BloomLord is the sword of the deck, Hydramon is the shield of the deck. When Digivolving, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. And during all turns, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, for each other suspended Digimon with Vegetation, Plant, or Fairy in its traits that you have in play, you gain a memory. That doesn't matter if it suspends by effects or if they attack. If your opponent, if this card is in play while you have suspended Digimon, you can gain memory when one of their cards is suspended. So if your opponent has low enough memory, this could basically end their turn if they try to attack. I mean, the attack will still go through, but after that, they're basically done if they have no more effects. And during the end of your turn, once per turn, if you have 2 or more suspended Digimon with Vegetation, Plant, or Fairy in its traits, place one of your opponent's suspended Digimon at the bottom of their owner's deck. That's another reason why we play this with this Palmamon, because this will suspend your opponent's Digimon to help get this card's effect off. Because one thing I really hate in this game is the effect of Reboot, which is basically during the start of your turn, your opponent's Digimon unsuspends, to where it makes it harder for this effect to go off, unless that's the turn that you Digivolve this. So yeah, definitely want to max out on these guys. I used to run 4 and 4, but I took one out each for this absolute beast, Quartzmon. This is the monster that was just released in BT12 this last weekend. When Digivolving, suspend all other Digimon. And first off, it is a Digivolve cost for green for 6. It does have a Digivolve for 9 on top of a level summon with save, but we don't play any save green cards in this deck, so that may as well not be there for this build. So it's basically going to be a level 6, but it's well worth it. When Digivolving, suspend all other Digimon and all Tamers. Then, for every 2 suspended Digimon and or Tamers, gain 1 memory. So again, it's basically a pseudo effect of both of these guys with their effects. All turns, all other than this Digimon, all Digimon and Tamers do not unsuspend, even by Reboot and even by Unsuspend Phase, and even by effects. They do not unsuspend. If he's out and they suspend, it's staying suspended as long as he's out. In my opinion, I used to like Puppetmon until I realized that wasn't a permanent suspension. This is basically what Puppetmon should have been, especially if you had to hard play it with a play cost of 11 back then. To me, that was insane. This is a lot better with a lot less cost. And its effect is that when attacking, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers, then trap the top card of your opponent's security stack for every 5 suspended Digimon and or Tamers. So when this card attacks, if you have enough buys on board, which a lot of the time you do with how much this deck spams the board, you can basically clean out their stack, or most of their stack, with this card. This guy is an absolute beast, and I love him. He was well worth taking out one of each of these guys. I did have one BloomLord and a Nidhogg in this deck, because Nidhogg is just a nice surprise to help clear your opponent's board, but I took that out easily for one of these, as well as, a Hydramon. So yeah, so far I've been playtesting with this card. It is well worth it in my opinion, and I would not change it any other way. And yeah, definitely a bonkers card. Off to the option cards. Speaking of Green Memory Boost, I'm running 3 Green Memory Boost. When you play it for 3 cost, reveal the top 4 cards of your deck and add 1 green Digimon card among them to your hand, and place your main cards in this deck. And this card also has a delay, which means it stays on the field. And its delay effect is that during the next turn, you can send it to the trash to gain 2 memory. Simple and good searching. We only have one hidden potential discovered because it's unfortunately limited to 1. I really wish this card would come back to 1. Fun fact, when this game first came out, this along with, I believe it was Argomon, got suspended to 1. Green was an absolute beast when this deck was first released, and they are still limited. Honestly, with the amount of crap that's going around in the meta nowadays, I think this card can go to maybe at least 2, maybe 3, because so that way this green can still catch up. Because no matter how good this deck is, it still has its pitfalls sometimes. So I would highly recommend, Bandai, bump this up if you can. It's my own biased opinion. I know Scott and Eric and all the other guys agree that this should stay limited because I'll admit it is broken, but I would like to see this card personally come back to more than 1 copy. And our last option card is 1 Grand de Sol, which I believe translates to the Grand Sun. When you would use this card, if you have 2 or more suspended green Digimon in play, reduce this play cost by 2. So instead of an 8, it would basically be a 6. And its main effect is that suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then return one of your opponent's suspended Digimon to the bottom of the owner's deck. So the good thing about this is that it doesn't have to be the one that you target. You could target another card to suspend that, and then spin another suspended monster to the bottom of their deck. Really good. That's it for the options. And our last 2 cards, which is also the Tamers, is Mimi. Her effect is that at the start of your turn, if you have 2 or less memory, you set it to 3. She's basically a memory setter. And her main effect is that if you have a level 5 or higher green Digimon in play, you can suspend this Digimon to hatch 1 Digi-Egg or move 1 level 3 or higher Digimon from your breeding area to the battle area. So her main effect basically gives you an extra breeding phase. I only mainly use her for the memory set because all the other decks like Shivamon, Sarasmon, and Nidhoggmon all utilized her effect to suspend her and push out a body. Nowadays, you can get your bodies straight from the hand, which is the better way to play this deck. Which is why I'm only running 2 of her. Otherwise, if I used it for that, I would run 4, which I used to do in the other builds. But now I only use her for memory setter, so I only have her at 2. And that is it for this Digimon deck. If you guys enjoyed it, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell down for notifications. Be on the lookout for Death Exmon. Death Exmon is literally the thing that hurts this deck the most, since you have a lot of bodies and a lot of bodies on board, which makes it a lot easier for them to get Death X out as much as possible and de-digivolve all your stuff. So that's the biggest concern that you have with this deck. But I just thought I'd throw that out. But anyways, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell down for notifications, and we will catch you guys later.